it's Colin with GrowthLoop, and we're going to talk about retail media networks and how we can activate those through GrowthLoop. So typically what we see today is retailers have razor thin margins, and we're trying to drive additional revenue sources with a high margin revenue stream via retail media networks. We can go through an example today of how you can work with a brand partner to maybe build out an audience and activate that for either on-site advertising, in-store advertising, or anywhere that you could sell ad space within your own network. So I have an example audience here that I'm getting started within the GrowthLoop application. You could pretend that I am a ad sales manager or a media sales manager for a large retailer, and I want to give my brands access to audiences that I have in my warehouse to be able to sell ad space to those brand partners. So in this case, we're looking at maybe an on-site advertising use case where we just want to target loyalty members. Maybe I have a loyalty program in my retail company. And then we also want to look at high lifetime value members. So pretty broad in general here, but we could also filter this down to certain types of products or brand types, which we can get into with the audience build. So I'll just go in and start with the basics here. And just like other audiences that we build within GrowthLoop, we get that same experience to be able to point and click and quickly build out criteria for who we want to target. So we're starting with 100,000 customers. Maybe for my audience section here, I want to exclude maybe another brand that I'm working with, because I don't want to overlap or make sure that I have duplicates here potentially. I want to maximize the reach for the ad space that I'm selling. So I'm going to exclude this brand A that I was working with and focus on the brand B partner that I'm working with. In the customer section here, this is where I have access to all of my first-party data that lives within BigQuery, Snowflake, Databricks, whatever your data warehouse of choice is. But some sample values here that I'm looking at could be birth date, if I have certain profile indicators, if I have churn segments like propensity to churn, maybe I want to include low and medium, if they've installed our app and downloaded it, where they're located, if they've opted into email, just some sample values here. But anything that lives within your BigQuery tables, in this case, would be available to pick and choose to filter on when you're building your audience. Sky's the limit here for what data is available within your warehouse. But again, this is all that exists currently within your warehouse. You want to make this available to the brands that don't have this data to be able to capitalize and sell ad space based on that information. Big value add for GrowthLoop, typically what we talk about with really any audience build, is the ability to join other data sets to your first-party customer information. So maybe I want to look at transactions that occur. So I have this group of customers first, and then I also want to filter down to the type of transactions that they're making within my retail stores. So I could look at transaction date and filter by when that transaction happened, how many items were in the cart upon checkout, could be online or in store, how much I spent when I checked out. Really any filter comes down to, what store were they in? Did they use a coupon? Again, sky's the limit for the data that we have access to here, but this is valuable info that I can say, brand partner B, here's a very targeted high lifetime value group of users. Where would you like to show your ads? In this case, on the website. So I do have 21,000 customers here. Maybe I want to filter this down, but immediately when I make changes to the audience, you can see right away that we get an updated count of how many people fit this criteria. I could build my pricing model just based on total customer reach. I could also get into maybe results-based pricing. Really depends on what you want to do for how you set up your pricing model for your RM. Now, getting into the export, once we have a audience built out, we feel good about the customer count. Really the same process for any GrowthLoop audience export. You can export to any destination that we support as far as pre-built integrations in our catalog. Typically what we see for retail media use cases would be putting this out to a GCS bucket for our brand partner to pick up. Could also export this back into a data warehouse. So maybe I want to integrate with my brand partner's BigQuery project and actually push this audience as a table into BigQuery. Now, being able to set this up as a ad sales manager or media sales manager, I can pick and choose what fields and values I want to send into the downstream destination. That's both privacy and data compliant, but it also allows me to be very specific with the fields that I'm going to make available for that brand partner. It could be propensity models, could just be hashed email addresses, but I can pick and choose as a manager to be able to say, this is only the data that you're going to have access to when we give you this list of users. Once we start running these campaigns, there's a lot of ways that we can look at insights or reports or data visualization. Every time we do an export from GrowthLoop, we snapshot that audience back into your data warehouse. So you will own the data as far as how those audiences are changing over time. A great way to look at how people move in and out, but also to do your own measurement. So if you want to run your own Looker, Tableau, Power BI dashboards on top of that snapshot data, great. You can build out campaign reports for your brand partners or for your internal teams. GrowthLoop also offers some insights reports out of the box in the Insights tab within the UI. So if you wanted to look at audience overlap, so how many brands are maybe using the same users across different ad channels that they're running. We can also look at channel performance, an attribution model, and then maybe some custom campaign performance models as well. We can also do custom reports if you'd like, but there are a lot of ways we can get to insights for how campaigns are running downstream once you actually start to activate your retail media network audience. And then finally, a lot of discussion comes up around organization management of the GrowthLoop account. So if I'm just an ad manager and I only have access to GrowthLoop, that's pretty straightforward just for me to build audiences on behalf of my brand partners. But if I do want to scale that, and it's going to be hard for me to manage hundreds of brand partners over time, I can actually set up my GrowthLoop account to be logically separated and have different accounts for each brand partner. So you'll see at the top left here, I have a bunch of different drop downs where I can, as a manager, quickly switch between brand A, brand B, etc. But if I'm a brand and I log into GrowthLoop, I would only have access to the data that I've been given permission for. So within the organization tab, we can set up the top level GrowthLoop account, which is the organization, and then teams would be the logically separated brand partner underneath that. And then users would be any individual that I invite to those teams. So I can control based on role, based on access for who sees what, and I can make sure that my data isn't being viewed by other brand partners within the app. I would love to talk more about retail media networks. So if you want to schedule something, just reach out. Thank you.